You've probably tried to be more present before, only to end up feeling like you're failing at yet another thing on your to-do list. But what if feeling present didn't require extra effort, a meditation app, or even sitting still for 10 minutes? Today, we're exploring one gentle way to feel more present in daily life without forcing mindfulness. Because in the middle of a busy day when your mind is pulled in a dozen directions, this is exactly when you need a quiet anchor, not another demand. When you start practicing this, you may notice that small moments like washing dishes, waiting in line, or walking to your car begin to feel less frantic and more alive. The biggest mistake most of us make is thinking presence has to look a certain way, when really it can be as simple as shifting your attention for just a few seconds. In this video, I'll walk you through the idea step by step so you can try in a way that feels natural and doable, not forced. So let's start with the one thing that often keeps us from feeling present without even realizing it. Feeling present in daily life without forcing mindfulness sounds like a contradiction, but it's actually a lot simpler than you might think. It matters because so many of us believe we need to sit still and breathe deeply to be present, yet that method often feels like another chore. Real presence isn't about clearing your mind or achieving a Zen state, it's about quietly noticing what's already here. For example, you might feel more present while washing your hands by simply noticing the temperature of the water and the texture of the soap. A common misunderstanding is that presence only happens during quiet moments, but it actually thrives in the middle of ordinary tasks. The benefit is that you can feel more connected to your own life without adding any extra time or effort to your day. The simple takeaway here is that presence is already available to you, hidden in plain sight. Now, let's look at why this matters so much for your everyday well-being. This approach to presence matters because it directly reduces the mental exhaustion that comes from trying to be mindful all the time. When you stop forcing yourself to focus, you allow your brain to settle naturally, which lowers stress and anxiety. Think of it like this: presence becomes a gentle background feeling rather than a forced spotlight. A practical detail is that people who practice this lighter kind of presence often report feeling more patient with others and less reactive in tough moments. A realistic truth is that forcing mindfulness can actually make you feel more distracted because you're fighting your own wandering mind. The relief comes when you realize you don't have to win an internal battle to feel grounded. The takeaway here is that allowing presence to happen, instead of pushing it, protects your energy for the rest of your day. Next, let's see what life looks like when this kind of presence is missing. When the ability to feel present is missing, your days can feel like a blur of tasks and worries, one after another with no real sense of connection. You might find yourself finishing a meal or a conversation and realizing you barely remember it. A simple way to picture this is driving the same route every day and arriving home with no memory of the trip. One practical sign is that you often feel restless, like you're waiting for the next thing to happen instead of experiencing what's happening now. The misunderstanding here is that this emptiness is normal, but it actually signals a quiet disconnection from your own life. The benefit of recognizing this is that you can stop blaming yourself for being distracted and start seeing it as a habit, not a flaw. The simple takeaway is that noticing the absence of presence is the first step toward having more of it. Now, let's explore the common habits and beliefs that block you from feeling present. Before we move on, I'd love to hear what stood out to you most from that section. Was there one tiny idea that felt like a relief or a simple shift you want to try? Feel free to share in the comments. It helps others feel less alone in their own journey. And if this video is already helping you feel a bit more present, consider giving it a thumbs up. That little action tells the algorithm that content like this is useful. Also, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. We're building a real, down-to-earth library of ideas here, and I'd love to have you along. Thanks for being part of this conversation. Let's keep going. One of the biggest blocks to feeling present is the belief that you have to earn it through effort, like a reward for meditating or journaling long enough. This pattern matters because it turns presence into another goal, which keeps your mind focused on achievement instead of experience. Another common habit is multitasking, especially checking your phone while doing something simple like walking or listening to someone talk. A practical example is eating lunch while scrolling emails, which trains your brain to ignore sensory moments. The realistic truth is that these habits aren't your fault. They're reinforced by a culture that values productivity over connection. The insight here is that you don't need to break all these habits at once. Just start noticing one of them with friendly curiosity. The simple takeaway is that awareness of a blocking habit naturally loosens its grip over time. Next, let's talk about the first mindset shift you need to make. The first mindset shift is to stop thinking of presence as something you have to do and start seeing it as something you allow. This matters because trying to do presence makes it feel like work, which your brain will naturally resist. Think of it like opening a window instead of building a whole new house. You just let the air in. A practical way to begin is to tell yourself, I don't need to try, I just need to notice. The realistic truth is that this shift can feel uncomfortable at first because you're used to effort being the answer. The benefit is that once you relax into allowing, presence becomes a gentle companion rather than a demanding task. The takeaway here is that permission is more powerful than pressure when it comes to being present. Now, let's move into the first practical step to begin changing this. The first practical step is to pick one ordinary moment in your day, like brushing your teeth or waiting for your coffee, and simply notice one sensation. This step matters because it starts small and feels totally doable, which helps you build trust in your ability to be present. You don't need to clear your mind or close your eyes, just pay attention to the feeling of your feet on the floor. A practical detail is to set a gentle reminder on your phone with a word like notice rather than focus. A realistic truth is that you will forget to do this at first, and that's completely okay. Forgetting is part of the process. The relief comes from knowing that even one moment of noticing counts as real presence. The simple takeaway is that this tiny step can create a ripple effect throughout your whole day. And with that first step in place, we're ready to explore how to carry this feeling forward into more of your daily routine. Let's talk about what this actually looks like when you're just going through your regular Tuesday. It's not about sitting on a cushion or chanting anything in your head. Instead, it might show up when you're washing your hands and you actually notice the warmth of the water, or when you're waiting for your coffee to brew and you just stand there without checking your phone. The key is that nothing extra is added to your day. You're just doing the same things with a little more attention. That might sound simple, but it actually makes waiting feel less frustrating and more like a small pause. So instead of rushing through every task, you start to have these tiny moments where you're not mentally somewhere else. And once you see that pattern, you naturally want to bring that same ease into the next part of your day. A really easy habit that helps is what I like to call the one breath reset. You don't need an app, a timer, or any special setup for it. It works like this. Anytime you switch from one activity to another, you take one slow, intentional breath before moving on. That could be between finishing an email and standing up, or between walking through your front door and starting dinner prep. The honest truth is, most of us rush those transitions so much that we never fully arrive in the next moment. This one breath gives your brain a second to catch up and land where you actually are. You'll find that you feel less scattered and more ready for whatever comes next without any effort beyond that single breath. And once you get used to it, you can start noticing other small transitions during the day where you can do the same. If you're looking for more gentle, practical ideas to bring presence into your daily life, I've got a little extra help for you. Over on our website, www.happylifetribe.com, you'll find articles and tools that go deeper into this kind of simple, grounded living. It's all about real small steps, no pressure, no perfection, just encouragement when you need it. You'll also find calm living inspiration and mindful lifestyle guidance that fits around your actual schedule. And it's totally free, so you can explore at your own pace. Whether you want a quick read or a longer resource, it's there for you. Think of it as a quiet corner you can visit whenever life feels a bit rushed. I hope it becomes a helpful companion on your path. A mistake a lot of people make is trying to be present all the time, like it's a switch you flip and leave on. That expectation sets you up to feel like you're failing every time your mind wanders. But being present isn't about never drifting off. It's about noticing when you've drifted and gently coming back. Think of it like a muscle you're training, not a light bulb that's supposed to stay lit forever. The real pitfall is judging yourself harshly for losing focus, which only makes you tense and less present. When you accept that your mind will wander, the whole practice becomes lighter and more forgiving. So the goal isn't perfect focus, it's just catching yourself a little faster each time you drift. That shift in perspective is what actually makes this sustainable, and we'll talk next about how to keep it from feeling overwhelming. To keep this from feeling like yet another chore, pick just one small moment in your day to practice. Maybe it's the first sip of your morning drink, or the few seconds before you open your front door at night. If you try to be present during your entire commute or your whole workday, you'll burn out fast. Instead, give yourself permission to only focus on that one tiny window of time. The realistic truth is that even 5 seconds of genuine presence can shift your mood more than an hour of forced effort. Once that one moment starts to feel natural, you can let it expand a little on its own. There's no need to measure progress or keep a streak, just let it be easy. And when life inevitably gets busy, that single anchor moment can still fit into your day without any extra pressure. As you get better at these small moments of presence, you'll notice your mind starts to quiet down a bit. The constant hum of worry about the past or planning for the future gradually softens. You might find yourself feeling less reactive when something unexpected happens. For example, a delay in your schedule will not send your stress levels through the roof because you're more grounded in the actual moment. There's also a subtle sense of relief that comes from not having to mentally juggle so many things at once. You start to trust that you can handle what's in front of you without needing to be 3 steps ahead. That emotional steadiness makes everyday interactions feel smoother and less draining. And once you taste that calm, you naturally want to protect it, which leads right into how to keep this going even when life gets hectic. When life picks up speed, the first thing that usually gets dropped is the very thing that helps you feel grounded. So the trick is to make your presence practice so small that it's almost impossible to skip. Think of it as a single exhale before you answer a ringing phone or 1 second of noticing your feet on the floor. The common mistake is to think you need a longer routine when you're stressed, but the opposite actually works better. Keeping it tiny means you can do it in the middle of chaos without needing to clear your schedule. You don't have to be perfect. Just keep coming back to those micro moments throughout the day. Sooner than you'd expect, those brief pauses become a natural reflex instead of something you have to remember. And that reflex is exactly what we'll explore further in the next part, so you can see how this builds into a lasting shift. Over weeks and months, this way of being present starts to quietly reshape your daily life in ways you don't always notice at first. It matters because the change isn't about big dramatic breakthroughs, but about small, consistent shifts in how you experience ordinary moments. You might find yourself less reactive when something unexpected happens, because you've trained your mind to pause before responding. Simple activities like washing your hands or waiting in line begin to feel less like annoyances and more like natural opportunities to drop into the moment. The challenge is that this progress can feel invisible, so you might doubt if it's actually working. But the benefit is that over time, you start to feel a subtle sense of calm that stays with you even during busier parts of your day. A practical takeaway is to trust the slow accumulation of these small moments because they build a foundation you can rely on. Now, even with this growing ease, it's helpful to know that realistic challenges can still pop up, and that is completely normal. One of the best parts of building a happier, calmer life is knowing you're not trying to do it alone. That's why I invite you to connect with others who are also learning how to be more present without forcing it. By subscribing to Happy Life Tribe and visiting www.happylifetribe.com, you'll join a community of people who care about peace, intention, and real emotional balance. We share stories, encouragement, and small wins together. There's no competition here, just a shared sense of I get it and I'm with you. If you've ever felt like you're the only one struggling to slow down, this space can remind you that you're not. So consider this a warm invitation to come on over and see what we're building. I'd genuinely love to have you as part of the tribe. Even after you've made real progress, there will be days when you feel completely disconnected from that sense of presence. This matters because it's easy to think that once you get better at this, you will not struggle anymore. But that's not how it works. A realistic challenge is when a stressful event like a tough conversation or a tight deadline pulls your attention away and makes you feel like you are back at square one. You might notice your mind racing, your body tense, and that familiar urge to push through without pausing. The pitfall here is to judge yourself harshly for slipping, which only adds more tension and makes the moment harder. The helpful insight is that these setbacks are not failures. They are part of the natural rhythm of being human. A simple takeaway is to notice the setback without trying to fix it right away. Just acknowledge that this is what presence looks like on a difficult day. Understanding this leads into the next scene, where we can talk about how to gently recover when you do slip back into older patterns. When you notice you've slipped back into autopilot, the most important thing is not to force yourself back into presence, but to return very gently. This recovery matters because harsh self-criticism only strengthens the cycle of feeling disconnected and overwhelmed. Start by simply pausing for one breath and use that moment to say to yourself, okay, here I am, and that is enough. A practical detail is to choose a very small anchor, like the feeling of your feet on the floor or the sound of your own breathing, and just rest there for a few seconds. The realistic truth is that you might still feel scattered for a while, and that is fine because recovery is not about instantly feeling perfect again. The relief comes from knowing that every time you return gently, you are reinforcing a new habit, not fixing a mistake. A simple takeaway is to treat each slip as a chance to practice the very skill you are trying to build, which is coming back without force. This gentle mindset is especially helpful for the people who need this topic most, which we can explore next. This approach to feeling more present without forcing it helps many people, but it is especially valuable for those who live a lot inside their own heads. It matters because chronic overthinking, anxiety, or a busy schedule can make presence feel like one more impossible task to check off. If you often feel like you are missing your own life because your mind is always somewhere else, this gentle practice offers a way back without pressure. A practical detail is that this method works for people who have tried traditional mindfulness and found it frustrating or too rigid to stick with. The realistic truth is that it also helps those who feel guilty about slowing down, because it frames presence as a natural shift rather than a productivity goal. The benefit is that instead of adding another chore, it helps you uncover the calm that already exists within your everyday routines. A simple takeaway is that if you are someone who craves a sense of ease more than a strict discipline, this is built for you. With that understanding, let's move into a very grounded action plan so you can start putting this into practice today. To start feeling more present in daily life without forcing it, choose just one ordinary moment you already do every day. This matters because trying to change everything at once leads to overwhelm, but one simple anchor is enough to begin. Pick a routine that does not require much thinking, like opening a door, turning on a faucet, or sitting down in a chair. A practical detail is to commit to bringing your full attention to that one action for just 5 seconds without trying to do anything else. The realistic truth is that your mind will wander, and that is exactly what you expect, so just bring it back without judgment when you notice. The benefit is that this tiny practice rewires your brain to associate everyday actions with moments of presence. A simple takeaway is to repeat this one practice for at least a week before adding another moment, building slowly and gently. Now, as we come to the final scene, I want to offer some lasting encouragement for this path you are choosing. This way of being present does not ask you to become a different person, only to notice the person you already are in the moments you already have. It matters because life is not something you have to chase. It is something you can learn to inhabit more fully, one small pause at a time. The change is worth practicing because it gives you back the richness of ordinary life, the sensation of sunlight, the sound of a voice, the feeling of your own breathing. A practical encouragement is to remember that you do not need to be good at this. You only need to be willing to try again each time you notice yourself drifting. The realistic truth is that some days will feel effortless and others will feel clumsy, and both are valid parts of the process. The relief is that presence is not a destination you arrive at, but a way of traveling that softens the edges of everything else. A simple takeaway is to close this video and take one slow breath before you move on to your next task, just to honor what you have learned. You are already more present than you think, and every time you return gently, you are building a life that feels more like your own. As we wrap up, I hope you feel a little more at ease with the idea of simply being present in your everyday moments. There's no need to force anything, just small, gentle steps when you remember. If this video helped you see presence in a new light, please give it a like and consider subscribing to Happy Life Tribe. Over on our website, www.happylifetribe.com, you'll find more encouragement, practical ideas, and support for a calm, intentional life. It's a space where we share gentle guidance and real, small shifts that fit into your routine. You don't have to figure everything out alone. That community is here for you whenever you need it. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you take that sense of presence into the rest of your day. Wishing you a peaceful, grounded evening, and I'll see you in the next video.